Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into some Korean economic news articles
Awesome.
that you sent our way. And looks like there's a couple big themes emerging here.
Yeah.
One is this trend of Korean startups kind of picking up and moving their headquarters overseas.
Right.
And then the other one is this whole emergence of a new power player in the AI world called DeepSeek.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to watch these two seemingly separate trends,
Yeah.
but they might be more interconnected than we think at first glance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that really jumped out at me from these articles was just how many Korean startups are actually moving overseas. They were saying it's increased almost sixfold
Wow.
in the past decade. It's a pretty big exodus.
Yeah, that's a significant trend, and it raises some questions about Korea's ability to hold on to
Right.
these innovative companies and attract new ones.
Yeah.
And the articles point to a few different factors,
Yeah.
regulatory hurdles, limited access to funding,
Yeah.
even a shrinking pool of skilled tech talent.
Yeah. They had some really interesting examples
Yeah.
in the articles, too, about some of these challenges. Like there was one about this fintech startup that had to move to the U.S.
Wow.
just to be able to use Stripe.
Oh, wow.
That basic online payment platform.
Basic, yeah.
That's restricted in Korea, and
Yeah.
it just makes you wonder, how many other
Right.
like potentially groundbreaking ideas are out there
Yeah.
that are being stifled.
Exactly. And you have to think about, the long-term impact on Korea's economy.
Right.
If all these innovative startups are, leaving to find opportunities elsewhere, it's
Yeah.
it's not a good sign, for growth and competitiveness.
It's almost like a brain drain.
Yeah.
Except it's not just individuals leaving, it's like whole companies taking their ideas and their potential with them.
Absolutely. And this is all happening at a time when, there's this global competition for tech dominance, countries like the US and China.
Right.
They're pouring money into attracting startups and fostering innovation.
Yeah.
So it makes it even harder for Korea to kind of stay in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got Korean startups facing some pretty serious headwinds at home.
Yeah.
But then there's this other development that's kind of shaking things up globally,
Right.
and that's DeepSeek.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
DeepSeek is an open source AI model
Okay.
developed in China, and it has the potential to be a real disruptor.
Now, for our listeners out there who might not be familiar with all the tech jargon,
Sure.
can you break down what open source actually means in the world of AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So imagine you have this amazing recipe, for a groundbreaking new dish.
Okay.
And suddenly that recipe is available to every chef in the world.
Okay.
That's essentially what open source AI does. It makes the underlying code and the trained model
Wow.
freely available for anyone to use, modify, even build upon.
So it's not like these closed-off proprietary models that we see with companies like OpenAI and ChatGPT.
Exactly. It's a completely different approach,
Wow.
And that's why DeepSeek is such a potential game changer.
So instead of just a handful of companies kind of controlling access to this powerful technology,
All right.
it becomes a shared resource that anyone can tap into.
Precisely. And that could lead to, this huge explosion of innovation.
Yeah.
As developers all over the world, experiment with the model,
Right.
tailor it to specific applications. The possibilities are pretty exciting.
Some of the articles were even saying that OpenAI themselves might be considering a shift
Wow.
towards an open source model,
Interesting.
potentially in response to DeepSeek.
Yeah, that would be a major shift for a company that's been, at the forefront of AI development,
Absolutely.
for so long. Big question is, what are the implications of this,
Right.
of this potential open source revolution?
Right.
Will it be a force for good? Will it accelerate progress and make AI more accessible? Or will it, create new risks and challenges?
It's almost like opening Pandora's box. right?
Yeah.
We have this incredibly powerful technology with the potential for amazing things.
Right.
But it also comes with potential downsides, that we need to be really careful about.
Absolutely. There are concerns about, data security, potential biases in the models.
Right.
Even the possibility of, bad actors using this technology for harmful purposes.
So we've got these two seemingly separate developments, right? We've got Korean startups looking for greener pastures abroad.
Yeah.
And we've got this emergence of a potentially disruptive open source AI model.
Right.
But my hunch is that they're more connected than they appear at first glance.
That's a great observation. That's exactly what we're going to explore in more depth. How are these trends interconnected?
Yeah.
What do they tell us about the future of the global tech landscape?
Right.
And what does it all mean for you, the listener?
Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the heart of these stories and uncover the insights they hold.
Let's dig a little deeper into why these Korean startups are choosing to relocate. The articles point to a whole bunch of challenges, like a regulatory environment that some see as stifling, especially in those newer tech sectors like fintech and AI.
Yeah, I remember reading about that gaming startup that had to pick up and move its whole operation to Singapore
Wow.
just to avoid those restrictions on in-app purchases
Oh, wow.
that Korean regulators impose.
Yeah.
It just seems like
Yeah.
these regulations, while well-intentioned, they might be kind of pushing innovation away.
It's a tough balance, right?
Yeah.
Policymakers have to find a way to protect consumers,
Right.
but also create an environment where these innovative companies can actually thrive.
Right.
If regulations get too burdensome, it's a huge disadvantage
Yeah.
for Korean startups compared to their counterparts in other countries.
It's like trying to run a race with weights strapped to your ankles.
Yeah, exactly.
You might have a great idea, a talented team, but you're constantly battling these external forces
Yeah.
that are holding you back.
And then you've got the issue of funding.
Yeah.
The articles suggest that Korean startups often struggle to get the capital they need to grow.
Yeah, especially compared to places like Silicon Valley
Right.
or even Singapore.
Yeah. It's a different ballgame over there.
One article even talked about how Korean investors tend to be a bit more risk-averse,
Yeah.
preferring to invest in established companies rather than,
Right. Those early stage startups.
those risky startups with
Right.
potentially disruptive ideas.
That makes it tough,
Yeah.
For startups trying to break into new markets or develop those cutting-edge technologies.
It creates this vicious cycle, right?
Absolutely.
If startups can't secure that early stage funding, it's harder to develop their products,
Right.
attract top talent, and ultimately prove themselves to those later stage investors.
For like trying to build a skyscraper without a solid foundation.
So we've got regulatory hurdles, limited funding,
Yeah.
and then on top of all that, the challenge of finding and keeping skilled tech talent.
Right. Talent is everything these days.
Several articles highlighted how tough the competition is for top engineers and developers.
Oh, yeah. It's a global arms race for talent.
And Korean startups often struggle to match the salaries and perks
Yeah.
offered by those global tech giants.
Especially those big Silicon Valley companies.
Yeah, and it's not just competition from abroad. The articles also mentioned
Right.
how Korean tech grads are often lured away by those big conglomerates,
tables.
the cables, with their prestige and their higher compensation
So
packages.
it's a double whammy.
It is a double whammy.
Not only are Korean startups losing talent to overseas competitors,
Right.
they're losing it to established players in their own backyard.
Yeah, it's a tough landscape.
It is, but even with all these domestic challenges,
Yeah.
Korean startups also have to keep an eye on global trends,
Right.
especially what's happening in AI.
Which brings us back to DeepSeek.
Exactly. This open source model,
Yeah.
it could be a major disruptor, something that Korean startups need to be aware of.
Whether they stay in Korea or move overseas.
Absolutely. DeepSeek being open source means anyone with an internet connection can access it.
Wow.
That creates a huge opportunity for startups
Right.
to leverage this powerful technology to develop new applications,
Right.
potentially leveling the playing field with those bigger, more established companies.
But it also means Korean startups are going to face even more competition
Right?
from developers all over the world
Yeah, anyone can use it.
who are also eager to tap into open source AI.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is.
It highlights the need for Korean startups to be nimble,
Right?
adaptable, and willing to embrace new technologies
Yeah.
to stay ahead of the curve. If they can harness the power of open source AI
Yeah.
and address those domestic challenges, they might just find their niche
Right.
in the global tech ecosystem.
So it's not just about relocating to a more favorable environment.
Right.
It's about being strategic innovative
Absolutely.
and constantly evolving.
To thrive in this rapidly changing world.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that brings us to an important question.
Okay.
How might these trends impact you,
Yeah.
the listener?
Right.
What are the potential implications of this global shift
Yeah.
towards open source AI?
Good question.
And how might it affect your industry, your investments, even your career?
Let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and explore those questions in more detail.
We've talked about the challenges
Right.
facing Korean startups and the potential disruption of open source AI.
Right.
But how do these trends connect to the bigger picture?
Yeah.
And what insights can we glean from these seemingly separate news stories
Right.
that might be relevant to your world. So we've talked about a lot, the exodus of Korean startups, the rise of open source AI like DeepSeek.
Right.
But now I want to kind of zoom out and think about what this means for you,
Yeah.
the listener.
The big picture, if you connect all these dots, it really paints a picture of a global economy that's in flux.
Yeah.
Innovation hubs are shifting, technologies are being democratized, and the nature of competition itself is changing.
And they had a cool example in one of the articles
Yeah.
about this Korean biotech startup that's actually using DeepSeek
Oh, wow.
to speed up drug discovery.
Interesting.
They can analyze huge data sets and identify potential drug candidates way faster than with traditional methods.
It's amazing how AI is transforming so many industries.
It is. It's incredible.
Think about the possibilities.
Yeah.
If you're an investor, open source AI could open up so many new avenues for investing in startups
Right.
that are using this technology.
Right.
Or if you're in a field like healthcare, education, finance,
Yeah.
think about how DeepSeek could be used to solve problems specific to your industry.
It's like the barriers to entry are coming down.
Yeah, you don't need to be a massive tech company
Right.
with tons of resources to experiment with and benefit from AI.
And all this is happening at the same time that Korean startups are looking for new homes overseas.
Right. It's not just about finding better regulations or more funding.
Yeah.
It's about tapping into those global networks of talent and expertise.
So these two trends, they're kind of feeding off each other,
Yeah, absolutely.
creating this more dynamic and interconnected tech ecosystem.
It's fascinating to watch it unfold.
It is. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to these things that might seem kind of far removed from our daily lives,
Right.
because they're all part of this bigger story
You're all connected.
that's shaping the future of business innovation.
Even geopolitics.
The articles even talked about how governments are responding to this rise of open source AI.
Right. The U.S. is definitely concerned about China's growing influence in this field.
Yeah, and other countries are trying to figure out
Yeah.
what it means for data security, national competitiveness.
It's a reminder that technology doesn't exist in a bubble.
right.
It's all intertwined with economic interests, political agendas, global power dynamics.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are some of the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, first and foremost, adaptability is key. This world is changing so fast.
It is.
And the ability to learn, adapt, and embrace these new technologies is going to be absolutely crucial for success, no matter what field you're in.
Absolutely. Second, don't underestimate the power of interconnectedness.
Right. What's happening with Korean startups is connected to open source AI in China, which is impacting policy decisions in the US and so on.
It's all connected.
It's all a web of interconnected forces.
It is. And finally, stay curious.
Yeah.
These articles we looked at,
Right.
they're just a snapshot in time.
A glimpse into this evolving story.
Yeah, the story of Korean startups, open source AI, and the global tech landscape.
It's a story that's constantly unfolding.
It is keep exploring, stay informed,
Yeah, absolutely.
and be ready to adapt.
As the world changes around us.
Well said. That's a great note to end on.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it's given you some things to think about.
Some food for thought.
Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring the interconnected world around you.